Deuteronomy 11, starting in verse 8, is a very, very important part of the Mosaic covenantal agreement that God made with the Jewish people. Remember, they just come out of Egypt, where you could grow crops because there was plenty of water from the Nile River. Observe, therefore, all the commands I am giving you today, so that you may have the strength to go in and take over the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, and so that you may live long in the land that the Lord swore to your forefathers to give them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. You may have heard that phrase. The land you're entering to take over is not like the land of Egypt, from which you have just come, where you planted your seed and irrigated it by foot like a vegetable garden. No, the land that you are crossing the Jordan to take possession of is the land of mountains and valleys that drinks rain from heaven. It is a land the Lord your God cares for. The eyes of the Lord your God are continually on it from the beginning of the year to the end. And that is still true today. Does that tell you why Jesus was born to a Jewish family in the land of Israel? Okay? Verse 13. So, if you faithfully obey the commands I'm giving you today, to love the Lord your God, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, then I will send rain on your land in its season, both autumn and spring rains, so that you may gather in your grain, your new wine, and your oil. It will provide grass in the fields for your cattle, and you will eat and be satisfied. So do you notice that obedience to the Lord is connected to the weather? It's a very interesting concept. Verse 16, now the warning. Be careful, or you will be enticed to turn away and worship other gods and bow down to them. The Lord's anger will then burn against you, and he will shut the heavens up so that it will not rain, and the ground will yield no produce, and you will soon perish from the good land the Lord is giving you. Do you remember the story of Elijah and the prophets of Baal? Mm-hmm. Directly connected to that promise that God had established to them. If they worship these pagan gods, he's going to affect the weather. He's going to withhold rain. And on a land that is fueled by rain, that's a big deal.
Physical picture of spiritual truth, anybody?
Yeah, making sense? One other little fact I'm going to throw out. Did you know that because the Israelis were desert wanderers, shepherds, they were terrified of water? One of the worst things that could happen to you as a Jewish person is to drown. Did you know that the Sea of Galilee was considered by them to be one of the gates to hell? You drown in the Sea of Galilee, you're going to the underworld, and it isn't going to be a good trip. So, did you also know that 7 of the 12 disciples were fishermen who would go out on the Sea of Galilee in the middle of the night to catch fish? Now, we're often presented the idea that the disciples were a bunch of bumbling, sort of ignorant people. They were not. They were very courageous men. Okay? All right, with that thought in mind, we're going to take a quick little turn to something else. We are going to be in some situations, those of us going on the tour, where we're going to have an opportunity to sing. Several of the churches where we will sing have incredible acoustics. Mm-hmm. And other tours we've taken, they produced a songbook, and people wouldn't remember their songbook, and then the person hosting the tour would forget the songbooks, and it was just a hassle. So what I thought would work better is for us to just learn these 6 songs, just a verse or two. So, let me get my clicker going here. Here's the first one. Are you familiar with this hymn too? Yeah, I think most of us are. We're just going to sing the first verse. But if we can get into the Church of the Weeping on the Mount of Olives that has the most perfect acoustics of any building I've ever been in, we will sing this. So let's try it together. Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, early in the morning our song shall rise to thee. Holy, 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 merciful and mighty, God in three persons, blessed Trinity. Now, we will probably sing that a couple of times, and there are some of us in here who know how to sing parts. And I hope we get to sing in that church, because you can look out through and see the temple platform through the front window. It's a really cool thing. So, one more time, and don't look at the words this time. Here we go. Ready? Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, early in the morning our song shall rise to thee. Holy, 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 merciful and mighty, God in three persons, blessed Trinity. Beautiful. I can tell you already, that's going to be a wonderful experience. Now, there's also a church on the north end of the temple platform called the Church of St. Anne. There is a 5-second delay in the reverb, which means we'll be able to sing holy, 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 and then stop and be able to hear yourself.
One person can sing 3-part harmony by themselves.
Yeah, it is a very, very cool thing. And that church was built in the Middle Ages, and so the experience of singing in there is awesome. Okay, and here's the next one. I'm sure many of you know this one. I have 2 verses on this one because they're fairly familiar. This familiar as well? Everybody? Pretty much? Okay. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Thank you. Well, those are 2 songs we'll sing in the St. Anne's Church if and when we get there. So I have several other songs we'll sing later on. I don't know if today or not. But now we're ready for your map. What I'd like you to do is take the second map, take your list of numbered places, and write them on your map.
Oh. Hey, hey.
See how much fun this is? Almost like going to school, isn't it?
Feel free to work in groups, everybody. This is not set. We'll be giving you a break on our text.
worry, I've got a PowerPoint, you can check yourself.
We'll check the answers later. But I'm doing it in ink. What happens if I make a mistake? Oh, I see.
You have to go last in the lunch line.
Uh-oh.
I'm telling
I
you.
just want you to know that on the previous quiz, we only missed 2. Just saying.
You guys can teach the class the next time.
Okay. No questions, that's not that hard.
Which page was it on?
Donald, are you looking in your manual?
Yes.
I can't believe it. You're cheating.
Yeah.
No, this is just a check from last session.
I'm just doing these parts, but now I'm
Oh, I
looking
see.
about the Central Mountain.
No, I'm gonna do a PowerPoint to show you where they all are.
He's trying to make us feel guilty, isn't he? No, we use all the resources available.
Yes.
Okay, so this one right
That's a big one. I really get that was down with these 3 up here and then down.
Don, you gonna talk about the West Bank?
The West Bank,
How it's even the name of it is
eventually I can, yeah.
prejudicial.
It's actually outlined on your map here. There's a modern map.
Yeah, but here's
This says
Galilee.
that Tiberius on the map.
That's the same. That's the same. That's the same. Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot to bring a book along as a recommendation on that whole
I
thing.
have it, you gave it to me.
The Mountains of Israel, yeah.
Really good.
Okie dokie, folks, how we doing? I'll talk about that in class. His name is Norman Parrish Archibald. And you can find that book on Amazon. It's only like 6 months. It is outstanding. What it is Ezekiel 35.
You want another?
It shows how that has been fulfilled.
The night before though?
That Ezekiel 37, which the book doesn't cover, is about the dry
It's
bones.
not what it means, you know, because like.
Or about God and Abraham, which is yet to be fulfilled. And that Ezekiel 43.
Yeah, totally with that. Yeah, I'd be like, I'd never.
We're going to talk about the temple.
The one in New York, online. Is that an outlet that you go to in New York?
Okay, are we ready to check our papers?
Yes.
All right, well, here we go. This is the triangle I talked about earlier. And you have these 3 things here. You have geography, and culture grows out of the geography.
Don, you need your microphone. Microphone.
Microphone, yes, thank
Yeah. Okay, is this better? Yeah. And this triangle is designed by Kay Money. By the way, if you don't know who Kay is, she is the person who wrote the manual that some of you are picking up. And by the way, the manuals are not free. They're $100 a piece. So if you want one, and I highly encourage you to get one, save up your pennies or whatever, but that manual is highly valuable. She's the one that wrote the manual. It took her 20 years, multiple tours to Israel, working with our first guide over there, Dr. Steve Langford, to refine much of the information that's in there. And it covers these three things: geography, culture, and history. So we're going to be looking at all three of those things, but not necessarily in that order. In the video that you watched already, this quote by George Adam Smith: history does not repeat itself without explaining itself. And the explanation is usually geographical. Now, we've already made it pretty clear that in this tiny piece of land with 5,000 years of history, that you will have events that reoccur. And so, because of the geography and the culture, that's why that happens. The Discover the Bible Lands Manual, pages 1 and 7. In the various PowerPoints I put together that we'll be seeing, I try and include the pages from the manual because there's extra information in the manual that I won't cover. All right? So you may want to think about that. So here is the map you have. And these are the 15 places we're going to locate. So, Mediterranean Sea, number 1. Number 2, the Dead Sea. All right. Has everybody got 100% so far? All right. Then we have the Sea of Galilee, which is right up here. I didn't put the 3 on the Sea of Galilee, but next to it.
Where's the sea?
Next, you have what's called the Central Mountain Range.
Yeah, that's Central Mountain. Where's that?
Whoops. Let me back up. I didn't realize that. Yeah. These are the Central Mountains. And they go all the way from down here in the desert all the way up into here. Megiddo is located at the end of the mountain pass right up here where this dotted line is located. The dotted line that looks like a reverse letter B is what today is called the West Bank. What do you mean West Bank? Well, originally Jordan, after the 1948 war, had won that part of the land right here, like the letter B. And so they called it the West Bank of Jordan, which is over here. However, in the 1968 war, Israel regained possession of that area, but they still allowed the Arabic communities to remain in what's known as the Central Mountains. Now, at this point, I'm going to recommend the book that I talked with Pastor Lee about. The book is called The Mountains of Israel. The Mountains of Israel. The Mountains of Israel.
I'll write it down on the board for you guys.
And the author's name is Norma Parrish, with 2 R's, Archibald. Now, what that is an expose of 2 chapters in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 35 and 36. And then she describes how, in modern times, that Ezekiel prophecy was fulfilled. I used to make my prophecy students at CBCA do a book report on it. So there you have the mountains of Israel. They're called the Central Mountain Range. And please don't think Rocky Mountains. The Central Hills. Really, it's the hill country. Okay? Now, interestingly, just for your own reference, right across here, about where that bottom part of the number 4 is where the division between the northern 10 tribes were and the southern 2. So when Israel split, that's about where the dividing line was. And we're going to cover history here, maybe today, maybe next time we meet, and we're going to talk more about that. Okay, Negev Desert, number 5. Did you guys notice that Kay said there was a difference between wilderness and desert? Well, the difference is that in the wilderness, they get enough rain that you can still grow barley, which is the first grain crop of the season. Mm-hmm. In the desert, you can't grow grain. So the barley line here is right about across here. And this whole area down in here is desert. You can't grow grain. Now, that's all changing because the Israelis have been brilliant with their use of water. Those of us that will go to the land, every place we walk that you see trees and plants growing, you'll see these little tan hoses with a little pinprick hole by each plant. And so there's a prophecy, and I forget exactly where it is. It says, they will make the desert bloom like a rose. Did you know that they figured out how to get water from the Sea of Galilee down through the mountains and into the desert region down here? Plus, they have desalinization plants all along the ocean, and they're literally making flowers, roses, and all kinds of other flowers grow down in here, vegetables. Israel is now the primary exporter to Europe of vegetables and flowers and those kind of things. In fact, a couple of years ago at the Mark stores here in the area, they had flowers in the Mark stores from Israel. So when I say that the land has become fruitful, just like God predicted, that's exactly what's happened.
So the next time you go to the grocery store, check your labels to see where your vegetables and fruits are coming from. You might be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of them come from California, very similar. Okay, the coastal plain and the Shephelah. Some people pronounce it Shephelah. I've heard it pronounced different ways. Is here along the sea coast. Any of you familiar with the story of David and Goliath? Shephelah. That's where it happened. Mount Carmel. Story of Elijah and the prophets of Baal, which is right next to the Jezreel Valley.
That couldn't possibly be connected, could it?
There's so much of the land embedded in the text of Scripture, folks. I get so excited about this and what's going to happen to those that are going to the land. It's going to be wonderful. Now we have the Jordan Valley. Which is all the way from down here at the end of the Dead Sea. This is the drying areas where they dry the water out to get the chemicals. You notice the dividing line between Israel and Jordan runs right through the middle of it, right up the Jordan River, and here's the Sea of Galilee. That's the Jordan Valley. Those of us going on the tour have the opportunity to float down the North Jordan, which is actually above the Sea of Galilee. And that's one of my favorite activities over there. Jezreel Valley, here we go. Number 9. And the Jezreel Valley runs all the way from Haifa all the way down into the Jordan Valley. And it is the most fruitful part of the land. Red Sea. It's clear down here at the bottom. If you heard of Eilat, is right on the Red Sea. We won't be going that far south, but Donna and Judy have been down there, and it's a pretty amazing place.
Still on my bucket list, just so you know.
Yeah.
I haven't been there yet either.
Okay, Golan Heights. On the northeast corner of the Sea of Galilee. Number 12, the Gaza Strip. Did you know that's where the Philistines lived?
We got it all in.
Interesting. Very interesting, curious thing that's gone on there. There is an Arabic terrorist group called Hamas that's centered in the Gaza Strip. And now that political pressure is swinging toward Israel and the Jewish people, they were threatening Hamas, the Israeli Defense Forces, to go in there and clean the place out. And suddenly Hamas is willing to make a peace agreement. Isn't that interesting?
Please note, we will not be visiting number 12.
Yes,
That
we
is
will
not on the
not.
list of sites that we have planned.
Palestinian terrorism.
Okay,
Yeah,
The Golan Heights is mined with landmines all over the place. When you go up there, you'll see signs,
yeah,
mines. And they left them in there because that's the place that they would be invaded from the north.
yep,
And there's another thing about the mines, they can't clean them out because the mines are metal and the rocks are metal, ferrous material from the volcanoes. And they
right.
can't tell the difference between a mine and a
Right.
rock.
So it's mine's, not yours.
hey, quick question. Gaza Strip, number 12. Do you guys know what ancient Bible group of people lived in that area?
I just said the
Philistines. Okay,
Philistines. Yeah,
right? But I just
very
want to
good.
make sure we're making that connection, because that's important.
Did you know that that's where the name Palestinian came from? That when the Roman government destroyed the temple and overthrew the Jewish people and kicked them out of the land, they began calling it Palestina. And so that's where the name Palestine comes from. There is no people group called Palestinians. Yasser Arafat pulled that name out of history to describe Arabs living in the land. Okay? So that's a little bit of political. I avoid the political discussion, but that's a little piece of information you might find interesting.
Which 13? Okay.
We're
So-
getting there.
13, there's the West Bank.
All right.
It's also the same as the mountains, the Central Mountain Range. Here then are the Jordanian mountains. Have any of you ever heard of Petra? Oh, interesting. Petra's located right here. It was a Nabatean stronghold. And does anybody know the name Esau? Like Jacob and Esau? That's the area of land right in here that was owned by Esau.
Edom.
And that's also known in the Bible as Edom. Anybody ever heard of the Moabites? Moabites? Oh, okay. Ammonites? Moab and Ammon were the two illegitimate sons of Lot by his daughters. Okay. Do you see the river here and the river here? That's Moab. See the river here, and there's a river into the Sea of Galilee? That's Ammon. So they lived on the eastern shore of the Jordan Valley. Finally, Mount Hermon, clear up here in the north. 9,200 feet above sea level. It has snow on it most of the year. We have been in Israel, in the northern part of the country there, and you can see Mount Hermon. You can see people skiing up there in June. So what happened? Yeah,
Let's do it.
Lee is an avid skier.
Pass this around.
Yeah, after we're done here, that would be great. Okay? Everybody doing all right with your map?
Yep.
Now, we're doing all of this preparation because all these materials are going to stay home. We're not taking any of that with us. We're not taking the songs with us up here. Okay? And so when we get to the land, these things will come out in our various settings. Okay, so that's all of them. If you have that general reference in your mind, then that's going to be a very helpful thing when we get to the land. Okay? Good. Negev Desert?
Everything below 5?
Yes. Everything down to a lot. Good. Any other questions?
What's the difference between the wilderness and the desert? Because the wilderness, you could grow food.
Rainfall. Yeah, the wilderness, again, is going to run from right around in here up along the eastern side of the Central Mountain Range. That's the wilderness. You get below that, down into here, then you're in the desert, and there's not enough rain to grow grain. But the Israelis are brilliant about a number of things. One of the things they've done, whoops, sorry. I disconnected my map. Let me set it back up real quick, please.
Sorry. Yeah, right, yeah. I put it so I could write it, but it's right here. Right.
Thank you. Thank you. You know the truth.
Sorry about that. All right. Back a number of years ago, maybe 5 to 7, the Israelis decided that, okay, a little bit of rain falls down in here. So they dug some large pond or small lake size areas and lined them with plastic. Okay? And when it rained, enough rain fell to start filling those up. And so then they made an oasis out of it and planted some trees around the pond. And all of a sudden, the rainfall increased in that area. It was like trees drew moisture, causing the rain to begin invading that southern desert area, which has also contributed to the raising of flowers and vegetables and so forth. Did you know that right now the Israeli water system is one of their most exported technologies? And there are countries in Africa where the people have been starving to death because there wasn't enough water, and they're teaching them how to do these kinds of things. And it's transforming some of these countries. So, you know, Israel takes a lot of hits about things they do, but they have been very, very generous in helping with countries that have had tragedies and so forth. And they're willing to share their knowledge. So, okay. Any questions on that? Good. Now we have one last thing, and I don't know how soon we're going to have lunch here, but on the back of your paper is a map of Jerusalem.
Clear as mud, huh?
Now, you already have the gates marked. I'm going to start with the eastern gate. And the reason is it's so important prophetically. All right? So, I don't know how much you'll want to write on this, but here we go. City gates of Jerusalem. There are 8 gates to Jerusalem, or 9, depending on how you count. Pardon? No, in the Ezekiel city there will be 12 gates.
Okay.
All right? In fact, that's one of the studies I'm currently working on to the side. Here is a Jewish saying. Israel is the center of the world. Jerusalem is the center of Israel. Do you understand why they say center of the world? Trade routes? Remember? Okay. Jerusalem is the center of Israel. The temple is the center of Jerusalem. So on your map, do you see the temple platform? Which side of the city is it on?
Yeah, east side.
Oh, it's on the east side. Why? What direction did the temple have to face?
East.
East. So when the Shekinah glory left Solomon's temple, as described in the book of Ezekiel, what direction did the Shekinah glory go? Came to the gate on the east side of the temple, up over the Mount of Olives and back to heaven. And there was no glory in the temple till Jesus showed up in John chapter 2. That's interesting. So when Jesus left after his crucifixion, 40 days with the, what direction did Jesus go?
East.
Mount of Olives, he went east and back to heaven. Wow, it sounds like a pattern. So in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 40 through 48, when the Shekinah glory returns to the temple, what direction will the Shekinah glory be coming?
East.
From east, traveling west. When Jesus returns, where is he coming to? Mount of Olives, book of Zechariah. Coming from what? The east, west to the temple.
How did he enter Jerusalem?
What's that?
How did he enter Jerusalem? Through the Mount of Olives.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm going to show you now. So here it is. And what do we have? We have the eastern gate. That's where we're going to start, and we're going to go clockwise right around. Okay? So here's the first one. This is the eastern gate, also called the Golden Gate. It's all bricked up. How come?
To stop the Messiah from coming.
That's exactly right. Karen says to stop the Messiah from coming. The Muslim leader, Saladin, heard that the Jewish Messiah was going to return to Jerusalem. So he decided they'd stop that guy. So what did they do? They put graves, Arab graveyards, in front of it and blocked it up. No good Jewish guy would walk through a graveyard. You become ritually impure. Problem is, Saladin didn't read the whole prophecy. There's going to be a huge earthquake. You guys following this?
Yeah.
Let me just say, you don't mess with Jesus. Okay, so next, we're going to be looking down here at this thing called the Dung Gate, the Manure Gate, Tanner's Gate, and that's the main entrance in here to the temple platform, the western wall. And that is where the garbage was taken, down in this area called the Valley of Ben Hinnom. Sometimes in the New Testament known as Gehenna. Gehenna, Jesus used that as a reference to hell. Well, there's some very interesting things historically tied to that. So here's the Dung Gate. And we'll walk through that gate to go up into the temple area. Next we have Tanner's Gate, which frankly is only to the left of the Dung Gate about, 20 feet. They're very close to one another. Next we come to the Zion Gate. right here. And it's not used a whole lot, but it is in the southern part of the, the southern part of the wall. Next we come to the Jaffa Gate. And next to the Golden Gate, Jaffa Gate is the most important gate to know where it is. It's on the western side. Why is that important? Because that's where you will get your taxis if you need to ride somewhere.
It's also almost always uphill from wherever you are. So if you're going downhill, you're heading down towards the western wall and that like where the Temple
Right.
Mount is. And so uphill is typically heading towards Jaffa Gate. And shop owners will, if you're like lost or whatever, because there will be a full day that you'll get to just go explore. So if you're having fun exploring and you're like, wait, where's Jaffa Gate?
Yeah,
Just have
and
the
you-
shopkeepers and say Jaffa Gate, and they'll just point you whichever direction. It's almost
You
always
can
up.
get lost in the old city like nobody's business. Very easy. The streets are all convoluted and everything. All you have to do is say to somebody, Jaffa Gate, and they'll know exactly where you're going. They'll point to it. So you're full of a city of maps. Okay? All right. Next you have the new gate. Looks like this. Whoop. Next you have the Damascus Gate. And why do they call it Damascus Gate? Because it's on the road to Damascus. You know Paul on the road to Damascus? When he left Jerusalem, that's the road he took, right up through here. We'll actually see the Damascus Road from the northernmost part of Israel, and you'll be able to see that road leading to Damascus. Now, Damascus is a mess today because of all the bombing and everything else that's taken place. But it's only 35 miles north of Israel, so... Okay, Damascus Gate. And by the way, that's the easiest way to get into the Muslim quarter. You can see that here, Damascus Gate leads into the Muslim quarter. Then you have the Christian quarter, which is at the Jaffa Gate. And you'll learn more about that later. This is how you get into the temple platform and so forth. Then you have the flower gate. You can't see it very well in this picture, but there's a big stone flower up here. It's also called Herod's Gate. And then you have Lion's Gate, which is on the north corner of the temple platform. You can see temple platform here, Lion's Gate right next to it. Church of St. Anne is right here. Pools of Bethesda are right here, where Jesus healed the guy who was lame for 38 years. That'll have an interesting conversation when we get to Israel.
Yep. If you go out the Lion's Gate, or you're standing in the Lion's Gate looking out, the Mount of Olives is right in front of you.
Right in front of you.
There's a little dip, but that's the closest way. If you're going to go out to get to the Mount of Olives, that's the closest
Right
place.
on. Mount of Olives right here. And also Mount Scopus, which is up here. So Mount of Olives, Mount Scopus. All righty. Now, when we get there, you will notice that there are bullet holes all over the front of this wall. It's called Lion's Gate because these are stone lions that are on here. They think that this is where Stephen the martyr was stoned. It was right outside this gate. That's why it's called St. Stephen's Gate. And so those are the city gates. Kind of cool, huh? All right, now Hope has one final little presentation, and then it's lunchtime.
I do?
Yeah, get up here.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Never changes. She's always pulling my chain.
Hey, you started it. All right. Hey, you should all have a. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Hi, everybody. Listen, I know that food smells amazing. So this next part's going to go super fast, and it's not because I'm hyper, but it's because we're all a little hungry. Okay. And also, when I'm done with this next part, everybody grab a piece of blue paper. We're going to just practice drawing a basic map of Israel. Just not like 15 things. We're going to talk about like 4 or 5 things. One of my very dear friends who lives in Indiana, and she runs a little daycare in her home. And she says, what is one of the things I could be doing that just helps me get ready to be there? I said, get the map in your head. Because then when you're there, you're like, oh, okay. Because when that was one of the most disorienting things when I was over there. Was like, okay, wait, where am I? Wait, which way am I facing? And I'm an internal compass person. I like to know where north is. Over there, they don't worry about north so much, but rather east. That's a whole other thing. Did we talk about that? About east? Cool.
Well,
hey.
Because of Zeppel orientation, everything orients to the east.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask a basic trivia.
Because north is your enemies. Syria,
Okay, I don't want this to go all the
Lebanon.
way up and not be able to get it back down.
There should be a rope on it.
We'll get it later. That's good enough. Okay. Okay, now, here's a question. Why east? All of your maps always orient to the east. By the way, the word orient is a part of the answer to the question. Why do all of their maps in the Middle East orient to the east? Okay, I'll give you a clue. No, because the orientation to the east was before Islam was a thing. So, east. You always know where east is every single day. You don't even need a compass. The sun always rises in the east. And so your temples, even pagan ones, will always face their doors east. Okay, because as soon as the sun comes up, if you're a follower of God, His mercies are new every morning.
From the rising of
The sun to the
setting of the
same.
same, the name of the Lord is
To be praised. And so the first sacrifice offered every single day was not when you could see light in the sky, when that sun peaked over top of the mountains. That's when the morning sacrifice was offered every day. And so east is your central focus. And the Orient is the east. So if you're orienteering, you're not actually facing north, you're facing east. So that's a fun thing. Okay, so we're going to draw a basic map of the land of Israel. Ooh, we have colors. Yes. All right, so if I'm going to draw a basic map, I think the first thing I'd probably start with, this is going to be interesting. Okay. I think I probably need to put the Mediterranean in here somewhere. Listen, this does not have to be scientifically accurate. This is just getting a ballpark of where are things. Okay, so the blue is Mediterranean. I can't spell Mediterranean correctly either because I don't know how many E's and R's there are. So, just M-E-D, I know what that means. Mediterranean. Okay, now, the next thing I probably need to make sure I have in place are the mountain ranges. Okay, gotta put the cap the right way. Okay, so we have actually, you can do little triangles. I do triangles. Down this way, and then there's a second one here. Again, this is not an exact science. Okay. You got it? Now, what mountain, well, there's, let's just do mountains. Here's another big one. I want to put a big triangle there. Do you guys remember which mountain that is? Michael? Mount Hermon. Yeah, or Hermon. I'm just going to put M-H. Or you should put H if you want. H for Hermon. Okay? Good. Because it's in the north. Fertile stuff. Mount Hermon. Okay. Now, I'm going to put an X. Is here about right for Carmel? About here? I'm going to put an X right about here. Okay? I'm just going to put the letter C. C for Carmel. Caramel. Mount Caramel. Okay. All right. Now, let's get the rest of our water in here. We've got the Mediterranean here. I'm going to just do like a whoop and a bigger one here with a squiggly and a squiggly. I like to draw a guy with X's on his face because it's the Dead Sea. He dead. Okay. The The Sea of Galilee is here. I'm appealing to a younger audience, I'm sorry. Remember, I work with 12-year-olds all day. Okay. Hey, Hutchings, I think we're going to be a problem together. Just saying.
I was not included. That was these two.
Just saying. Okay, so this I would say is the basics. Now, what is another major city we probably should put in here somewhere? Yes, I'm going to put it big red, J. And then it's, we decided that Bethlehem's to the south, right? So put the B underneath that, okay? Those are just the basic things, okay? And from here, I would also put Gaza down, no, that, Gaza, all right. And that, for me, those are the major big things that you need to know kind of where you are to keep yourself oriented in the land, okay? Feel free to add other things that you feel are a big deal, but this is the basic stuff, okay? And then, you're gonna think this is silly, practice drawing this map. In fact, that's one of the things my friend did. She just got this big piece of paper, and she has her little kids. She's actually teaching her little kids the basic map of Israel. And so as she's going through the itinerary of places we're going to be visiting, thank you. You're here in my personal space, dude. Okay. If you're a person who's going on tour, or even if you're not going on tour and you want to just know where we're at and what we're doing, like you can get your basic map or your super adult detailed one, whichever you like, and just keep track of where we're at. Does this make sense? Oh, you know what might be a good thing to have marked also? Okay. Okay, when we fly into the land, this is where we're going to land. Okay, Joppa is right near here, Caesarea Maritima, all of those are real close to each other, but the coastal city of Tel Aviv is really important. Tel Aviv? It's on the coast. Not to get political, but isn't Tel Aviv where the American embassy used to be?
Yes.
And now, here's where it is now. That's a very interesting conversation. I've had people ask me repeatedly, well, why is that even a deal? Like, I don't understand why people are all up in arms about that. That's a great lunchtime conversation to have. Now, I'd like to talk about the food that we're going to enjoy here in just a minute, and then I'm going to ask Dad if he wants to pray for it. Is that what you're thinking?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So, food. We have... Yes, Michael?
Can you pray in Arabic or in
No.
Jewish?
I can pray in English.
Close enough. That's good.
I know some short Hebrew phrases that I can teach you about blessing. And interesting thing, in Jewish families, they don't bless the meal before they eat, they bless it after. And they also don't bless the food, they bless the God who provided and created it. Which I think is really, I love that. I just love, let's just put it back on the Lord. Without him, we wouldn't even have food to eat at all, which I think is wonderful. Okay, so to start the line off, we have lentil soup, pita bread. The big flat plate behind it is hummus, or hummus, if you're American. Okay, we like a little phlegm action there, but not, Then we have 3 different types of pita rolls. We've got a chicken shawarma, and beef shawarma. Okay, so the chicken tarwook is shredded chicken?
No, it's chicken tenders.
Okay, so chicken tarwook is a chicken tender and a pita roll. Then there's, Mom?
Shaved chicken
Then there's shaved chicken.
and shaved beef.
And then there's a shaved beef, which is the chicken shawarma, okay? And beef shawarma. And then we have falafel balls, which is chickpeas with lovely seasonings that are they look like a meatball, but there's no meat involved, okay? With the white sauce that goes with it is tahini, which is from sesame seeds. Again, those are gluten-free, aren't they? Okay? If you're a person who cannot have gluten, the little box with chicken tenders is gluten-free, so please, if you're not a gluten-free person, please let the people who are gluten-free partake of that first. There is rice, seasoned rice, regular salad. There is, in the blue bowl, it's called tabbouleh, which is tomatoes and cucumber and parsley and mint and lemon. It's this is something that they eat literally at every meal. This is a common salad in the Middle East. They will eat it for breakfast. They will eat it for lunch. They will eat it for, they literally eat it all the time. I love it. It reminds me of spring because as soon as it's about spring, I start pretty much doing the same thing. And dessert is dates and figs. Dried fruit. See, fresh fruit doesn't last all year round for them. But dates and figs dry beautifully, and they are wonderful. So if you've never had a fig, try one. If you're afraid, share one with a friend. Like you try half, the other tries half. Okay. And then you'll notice there's also some cream cheese. Dates are wonderful with a little bit of cream cheese in them. I'm just saying that's a little extra special treat if you're a brave person like that. So if you have questions about any of the food, don't hesitate to ask any of us that have been there before. I don't think any. If you go hungry, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to hand the mic back to my dad, and we'll go from there.
Let's pray together. We bless you, O Lord, the creator of heaven and earth, the King of all creation, for your bounty, for how you have blessed and cared for us. You have given us the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who through them you have established your covenantal promises which led to the Savior Jesus. And so, Father, we come with grateful hearts, not only for what you have done spiritually, but you have provided now for us physically with this meal. May we honor you in our conversations the rest of the day. In the name of Jesus we pray it. Amen.
Amen.